Hello and welcome to the screencast for ELL356 Language Contact. I'm Mark Faulkner. I've been in Sheffield for a couple of years. I'm a lecturer in medieval English, and language contact is sort of my academic hobby. So my specialism is medieval English, but I've become very interested in language contact, particularly in the later Middle Ages, but actually much more broadly than that too. I've got an article forthcoming in the New Oxford Handbook of Language Contact on language contact in the history of English. The course takes as its kind of starting point that far from the popular conception, at least in this country, that monolingualism is normal, that we speak only English. In fact, as David Crystal says there on the bottom of the slide, bilingualism is normal, and it explores the consequences of that for the history of the English language. So we start the course by looking at the various levels of language that historical multilingualism has influenced. So lexis, semantics, syntax, morphology, etc. And you get the opportunity to work on whichever areas of the language interest you most. So if you've done a lot of syntax at levels 1 and 2, then you're welcome to continue thinking about syntax in the context of this module. So after that kind of brief survey, which occupies the first 3 or 4 weeks of the semester, we then moved into a slightly more theoretical part of the course where we think about how language contact causes language change. And the kinds of things we're thinking about here are second language acquisition. We're thinking about code switching, which is where a bilingual individual will move between different languages that they know in conversation. We're thinking about language shift, which is where whole populations which are bilingual abandon one of their languages and become monolingual. And at the end of the course, the final 4 weeks, we'll work through a series of case studies of different languages that have had a major effect on the history of English. So Norse, French and Latin. And on the basis of that, you'll be working in groups and doing a little bit of research on particular contact situations, producing a poster, and that poster then leads into your final essay. So that leads me neatly onto the assessment for this module, which has 3 components. The first is data analysis, where you're asked to look at evidence for contact-induced language change in a particular present-day English text. And the work seminars that lead up to this will all be very practical, hands-on guides to how to collect data about language contact and how to analyze it. The second 2 assessments form a pair, and they're much more evaluative. So not really nitty-gritty detail, but much more overarching analyses. And so you'll work in groups. You'll be given a particular contact situation to look at, and you'll do some research, produce a poster about that contact situation, and then you'll go away and write that up as an essay, 2,000-word essay, which is your final assessment for the module. The teaching is that you have 5 hours every 2 weeks, so a lecture every week, and I use the lecture to introduce you to some key concepts and some examples of particular language contact phenomenon. In the seminar, you get to try these examples and these concepts out for yourself, collecting some data, analysing that data. And in the study hour, there's an opportunity to reinforce what you've tried to do in the seminar by sort of working through some examples much more in your own terms, while I'm there to offer advice and support for you. Other information, well, there's not really too much to say here, other than that there are no prerequisites. Now, I think this module will certainly appeal to students with a real background in historical linguistics, but at the same time, you don't need that background. Because of the diversity of experience in the class, we tend to assume zero knowledge to begin with and build from there. So everyone is welcome. And if you've got any concerns about whether you're suitable for the course, do just drop me email on the email address which has now magically appeared on your screen, m.faulkner@sheffield.ac.uk. You can also just come knock on my door, which is on the 5th floor just at west, the second door on your right. So I think that's everything really. I hope to see some of you in spring on the module. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to contact me, and thanks very much indeed